Hello and welcome to Roomies Review the Movies. I'm Maria.
And I'm Lindsay.
Yes, and this week we are reviewing the 1998 film Fallen. It's uh, a film starring Denzel Washington in one of the few roles he plays as a villain. Well, not as a villain, but as a hero who doesn't succeed, right, at his task.
Yeah.
So I saw this movie in theaters when it came out in 1998. I guess I was like 13 or 14.
One of them. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Lindsay's first time seeing the film.
Yes.
So I remember seeing this movie very vividly, like
Oh yeah.
especially, oh yeah, especially with the song. You have the Rolling Stones' "Time Is on My Side" being sung throughout the movie, and also the ending, which was an unusual ending, especially at the time,
Yeah.
um, especially for an actor like Denzel. But we have Denzel, and he's playing Detective John Hobbs, who's named after two philosophers who were talked about. Are humans inherently evil or are they inherently good and stuff like that? That comes into play later. And so Hobbs is this detective, and he's been integral in this case and catching this serial killer, who's played Edgar Reese, who's being sent to the gas chamber, and he has like one last interview with Edgar for this documentary that's being done for him, and Edgar just seems like really just kind of happy like about it, and he's acting very strangely for someone who's is gonna die very soon,
Yeah.
and he reaches out and shakes Hobbs's hand and seems a little disappointed. And Hobbs is like, "Okay, you can get off me now."
Hmm.
And Edgar starts talking in this strange different language that we find out later is like Sumerian or Aramaic. And he's singing when he's in the gas chamber. He's singing "Time Is on My Side" and like disturbs everybody there.
Yeah.
And so after he's executed, there's still like a string of copycat murders are happening the same way that Reese would kill his victims.
Hmm.
And so of course, they assume, oh, well, there must be somebody out there doing what he did, so they're still trying to investigate it. And falling down leads and hints and things like this, because on one of the murders scenes they find a riddle that Edgar Reese had said to Hobbs right before he died. And so they're like, well, this person must have some kind of connection.
Hmm.
So it's like he says, what happens? What's with the blank space between Lyons and Wachowski, or I can't remember the other name, but something like that. And so he finds out it was this cop that had been named Cop of the Year,
Hmm.
but his name was taken off the plaque. And when he finds out who the cop is, he goes to visit the daughter of the policeman. She tells him, my dad was investigating these murders. He got the killer put away, and then he started getting framed for all these other copycat murders. And then he went to this cabin that we've had for generations in our family and killed himself, right?
Hmm.
And she's like very reluctant to even talk to him or talk about it. Um, and he's getting kind of aware that this is something a little bit more than human, right? So
Right.
after he learns about the cabin, he goes to the cabin, and he's in the basement, which is covered in vines somehow. It's very weird and creepy. Uh, and he finds all these books about demonic possession. And then he also sees this wall that has like this odd paint on it. So he's taking the paint off, and he sees the name Azazel written on the wall under the paint.
Hmm.
And so he goes back to the daughter. Her name is Greta. And Greta is played by Beth Davids, but she looks a lot like Melissa Milano. to the point where like the last name of her character here is Greta Milano.
You think so?
Yes,
I didn't.
they
I didn't catch that at all.
they look a lot like to me.
Yeah.
And so he finds the name. He goes back to Greta. He asks her about the name, and she's like, "You just got to drop this case. You got to protect your family. If you keep pursuing this, bad things will happen." And he leaves. Um, but all this time, what we're finding out is Azazel is this entity that can jump from person to person through touch.
Yeah.
Right? We see we you, there's this like a yellow and green kind of haze when you're seeing from like the demon's point of view. So you see during this whole time the demon jumping from person to person, trying to find Hobbs, right?
Hmm.
And it's really interesting the way they do it because this is an invisible enemy, right? How do you
Right.
show an invisible enemy? So they clue you in with the touch to touch, right? And all the extras are doing really great work, like with like their facial expressions when they're possessed and stuff like that. And then you
Mm.
also have the demon singing "Time is on my side" because he's immortal, right? So he sings that to basically tease and terrorize his victims
Right. Right.
to let them know that he's around. And so they find that out, and that Azazel was possessing Edgar Reese, and that's why all these murders were happening, and that's why Edgar shook his hand before he went to the gas chamber to try to pass Azazel on to Hobbs, but because Hobbs was such a good man, Azazel couldn't get in that way. Because right after the whole execution, he has this discussion with his other cop buddies, played by James Gandolfini and John Goodman,
Hmm.
about taking basically extra funds on the side. And he's like, "I don't do that, but I'm not judging you either."
Right. Right.
And then he says, like, cops. No, no, no. Who was it? Who said that? I think it was one of his buddies who was like, "Cops are the chosen people." I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah. That did not age well at all.
No, not at all. Oh my goodness. And so we get some scenes of Azazel trying to catch up to Greta because he's seen Greta talking to Hobbs, and so he figures that Greta must be important to Hobbs. And so what Azazel likes to do is get to the people that are important to you, right? And so he's trying to get to her, and she notices what's happening because she's being followed by somebody because she keeps stopping in like the shop windows to look behind her and see the reflection. And he corners her and tries to touch her, but there's this commotion where he can't get to touch her, and she starts running, and then he starts running by touching the people down the street. So it's like this, almost like this long conga line of people like touching each other, passing Azazel, so that he
Mhm.
can try and get to her, which is like it's so effective.
Yeah.
It's so chilling, you know. Although at one point I was like, cross the street, cross the street. Um, so we have that, and then also he's been in the been able to get inside the precinct, right,
Mhm.
and going through Hobbs's partners singing the song, so Hobbs knows that Azazel is near and is gunning for him. And the whole time with these murders we're seeing people have been like poisoned or like are having overdoses um, with these murders, right?
Yeah.
And so it comes to a point where Azazel is, terrorizing Hobbs still, and is jumping from person to person, and actually gets into his nephew, right,
Hmm.
and uses the nephew to like beat his own father, Hobbs's brother, who
Yeah.
has some sort of disability. It's very unclear. He's
You thought
supposed to
that
have
was a
some
disability?
disability. That's what they're trying to imply. But he really just seems like very kind and emotional. Like I don't,
Yeah. I took him as very timid.
yeah. But they're
Mm.
trying to play it like he has some kind of mental disability.
And I mean, I kind of saw why they would, I mean, not necessarily why they would, but I kind of saw them going down that road, but it didn't make sense to me because he was kind of
Yeah,
like divorced and he had the kid.
yeah.
So I'm
There
like,
didn't seem to be any there there. It just seemed like he was just quiet. And then,
I just took him as very timid and
right,
you
maybe a little
know,
naive, but like
right, right, but
that's how they were
it,
playing it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ugh,
Um,
no.
so Azazel uses the boy to like punch his father, right?
Mhm.
And then Azazel goes into this kid that he was playing with, and Hobbs finds out, that's what's happening. He's chasing this kid down the street, and Azazel's passing himself to other people. Eventually, gets to this guy. Guy pulls out a gun, is going to shoot him, and Hobbs is saying, "Put the gun down, put the gun down," all that stuff, being the best version of cop we
Mhm.
could probably hope for. And of course, he doesn't. He picks up the gun and he's like gonna shoot him. So Hobbs shoots him, kills him, and it
Yeah.
turns out the guy was like a really beloved teacher in the community. That the gun was full of blanks and the car was stolen. And for some reason, they're looking towards Hobbs as the culprit for this, as a suspect. And I don't really understand it because, like,
I
how
didn't
would
get
he
that either.
know? Yeah, how would he know that the gun had blanks or,
Yeah,
that the car was stolen or any of that?
right.
Because you
And
also
then
have
it was in broad daylight with a bunch of witnesses.
a lot of witnesses. Then
Yeah.
what happens is once the guy that Azazel is inhabiting passes away, he, within the span of a breath, he has to find another person to possess, right?
Hmm.
So Azazel finds another person and then uses that person to be on the TV news to say, "Oh no, I saw everything. The cop was just shooting this innocent man." Da, 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 it's like, but there are also other witnesses who aren't possessed, so they will have a different story.
Right. And then the one that was on the news giving the interview wasn't the one that was possessed after the shooting.
No, it was. She was the one that was possessed after the shooting. That's the same girl.
I thought it was the older lady that gave the interview, and the
No,
younger lady was the one that was possessed.
mm-mm.
Okay. I don't know how I got that mixed up, but yeah.
It's okay. I mean, she does change what she's wearing at some point, but it's the same person. At that point, it stays that girl for quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
Because they're trying they're told him, turning his gun his badge. They're gonna come and like try to arrest him and everything. And while that's going on, Hobbs is at home with his nephew, and he's like, "Where's your father at?" He's like, "Oh, he's sleeping or whatever." And so Hobbs goes into the room and he sees that his brother has actually been killed, like been killed by this poison. And another thing Azazel has been doing is writing letters on the chests of his victims,
Hmm.
right? So he's got letters on his chest, and it's a really sad scene because he just covers up his brother and just like lets him sleep. He doesn't want to tell his nephew yet, and the
Yeah.
police are coming. And he asks his nephew if anything happened last night, and his nephew's like, "No." He's like, "I remember somebody tickling me or something," and he has a letter on his chest. But the question is like, did Azazel possess his brother and kill himself, or did Azazel possess the kid and the kid killed him?
It's a great question. Um, I took it I took it as actually a third person because that window was open. So I was thinking that the person like came in and out the window. But
That's possible too, because
yeah,
I was looking at something that suggested the kid, and I was like, "Oh, that's so dark." Like,
yeah, right.
they, ooh, I don't know about
But who
that.
would the kid have touched for it to transfer?
I don't know because he got into the kid before.
Yeah, it got into the kid before, and then he touched his friend, and then his friend had it.
Hmm.
So with
Hmm.
it having to be transferred to another person, who would he have touched in the middle of the night? You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't know.
Because the
No clue.
only person that Hobbs knows that touched him actually was him. So if
Hmm.
it was in the son, wouldn't it have been in Hobbs next?
Well, Not
when they
necessarily, but now that you mention it, when they're because right after this, they like jump out of the window to escape the cops coming, and
hmm
that girl is there, so it's
yeah,
probably her.
yeah, right, because she just so happened to be there. So
Yeah, it was like, how does she know where he lives? Right?
hmm right,
Yeah,
right. But the
so it's
Zazel,
probably her that did it.
so
So they're still trying to find Hobbs for these murders, right?
hmm
And he's not gonna let that happen because they found like his fingerprints and things like that. And he's like, they could have gotten on a coin. They found his fingerprints on a coin that was at a scene of the crime. And they're like, that could have gotten come from anywhere. Because like the killer's also been calling him. So he's like, how can I be the killer and also call myself and answer the phone?
right,
Right? And this is 1998, so nobody's really using cell phones. It's not a thing.
yeah,
Right.
right,
So he would like to have to travel across town to get that done. Nobody can answer that question, but for some reason he's still a suspect.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't get it. Um, So Hobbs takes his nephew to Greta's house, and he's like, "Please take him away from here, somewhere where I don't even know where you're going. That's somewhere you've never been before. Just like leave." And then he goes up to the cabin, and he's waiting. He's sure Azazel's going to find him there, so he's waiting there. And his partner, played by John Goodman, and then also his boss, played by Donald Sutherland, show up, and they've shown up to arrest him. And he knows one of them is Azazel, but he doesn't know which one, and neither do you. And you're like, which one is it? Trying to figure out which one it is.
hmm
And they're trying to get to him to drop his gun, of course. And he eventually does, and it's revealed that Azazel's in his partner's body. So that's Detective Jonesy, played by John Goodman. And Azazel starts talking crap basically, and then shoots Donald Sutherland in the head. And, like, he's like, "Hey, I've ruined Jonesy's life. It's time for yours next." All this stuff, and they're doing cat and mouse fighting and like trying to get away from each other and everything. And eventually, Hobbs shoots Jonesy in the stomach, right?
hmm
And Azazel's like, "Oh, that's so stupid. Like, now I'm gonna just be hanging around with you until I die. Then I'm gonna get inside of you because that's gonna be the maximum fun is to be you, and like commit all these crimes in with your body, basically."
hmm
And while he's doing this, Hobbs is smoking a cigarette, and Azazel's like, "I thought you didn't smoke anymore because And Hobbs is like, "Yeah, they're deadly or whatever." And Azazel's just kind of laughing at that. And Hobbs goes, "Especially when they're laced with poison. So that poison that you gave my brother is what's in these cigarettes."
mm
So once my partner dies, you're gonna come and you're not gonna have anywhere to go. I need some time for the poison to work, so that's why I only shot you in the gut. Right.
yeah,
So as the poison starts working, he actually kills his partner. And Azazel's trying to inhabit him because if Azazel doesn't have a body, Azazel can't exist.
hmm
But Denzel's dying and running away, and we kind of get back to the first scene in the movie where he's like, "Let me tell you a story about where I almost died."
yeah,
And what we see next is a cat, and so Azazel possesses the cat. And there was actually foreshadowed that earlier in the film where Azazel possessed a cat to get away, and then like went on to humans. And that's the only thing is like Hobbs didn't know Azazel could possess other living beings. He thought it
hmm
had to be human, which is why he was like, "Hey, I'm going to go out to the woods where there's nobody around, and then not give the Azazel a chance to in- possess anybody else."
yeah,
And but Azazel gets in the cat, and he's like, "See you soon," you know.
yeah.
And they start playing "Sympathy for the Devil" over the credits.
That's what that song was.
Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, yeah. So, when you first saw it, what was your initial reaction to it?
Oh, I really liked it.
hmm
It was definitely because it's not a happy ending, which is unusual for the story for movies of that time, right? Especially cop movies.
Right.
Um, I thought it was I thought it was really good and creepy. Like it's not to me, it's not scary, but it's got very atmospheric, kind of lots of darker tones, right? They do a good job of using the music and the touch to show like where the demon is going, and it gives you that sense of urgency.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, I remember it back then, and I always
Hmm.
thought it was probably like a super scary movie. So I
Hmm.
was like, I don't want no parts.
No.
But it actually wasn't. So I'm surprised. I'm surprised. But yeah, but like all those movies that's dealing with like spirits and demons and stuff, like I always steered away from those because I was like, those are like super scary. I don't want no parts. I don't want the demon to jump off the screen onto me.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, but I actually was pleasantly surprised. Like, I mean, honestly, you really can't go wrong with Denzel.
Yeah,
Like,
and also like the cast is pretty well stacked. Like you got Denzel, Donald
uh-huh,
Sutherland, John Goodman. Embeth was also in Schindler's List, and you have James Gandolfini, and then also in like some extra roles you have Russell Hornsby, who was in the show Grimm. He was also in The Hate You Give. He played the dad, and you also have Reno Wilson, who plays Stan Hill on Good Girls,
hmm,
and he's a cop in that show too. He's a cop in the movie, and I think so is Russell's uh, character is also a cop. And he also plays a cop in Grimm, which is a supernatural cop show.
uh-huh. And the black cop that was in uniform that
Mhm.
took on the Zazel, he is on Mike and Molly.
Yeah, that's Reno Wilson. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I never knew his name. Like I've always seen his face, but I never knew his name.
Oh well, I definitely did look it up, but yeah, I recognize him most recently from Good Girls, which
Okay,
is a really excellent show on Netflix.
okay. And then the
He
guy,
plays Retta's husband in that show.
okay. And then you remember that show, Eve, that came on like in the early 2000s? It
Yeah,
had
yeah.
Okay, you remember her boyfriend on the first
Where her
season?
name wasn't Eve in the show.
Right. That's because that show was actually supposed to be called something else. I think like
I
the
wish they would have done something else since she
yeah,
wasn't Eve in the show.
yeah, right, right. But yeah, they filmed it. It was called something else, and then they changed it to Eve. But her boyfriend on the first season of the show, he was an extra. Cause remember when they were passing it at the food truck stand or whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
so it was a black guy that they passed it off to, and he was one of the
That's
extras.
Russell Hornsby.
That's his name. See, I don't
Yeah,
know these people names,
that's
but
Russell.
okay, yeah, I remember he was in a lot of stuff in the early 2000s.
Hmm.
Uh,
He's still been in a lot of stuff now. Um, but yeah,
okay,
that's Russell Hornsby.
okay, and then the brother, Hobbs' brother, he was on New
Mhm.
Jersey Drive. Have you ever seen
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. That was I mean, that was one of those 90s movies that was coming out around the time that Menace to Society and
Hmm.
Juice and all that type of stuff was coming out. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll have to put that on the list. It's not a bad movie. But yeah,
Okay.
but that's I always remember him from New Jersey Drive because that was the first time I ever saw him. But I've seen
Oh,
him
I
in
never.
other things. But yeah,
He did look familiar to me, but I didn't recognize him particularly from anywhere. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. But I'm
but
always
yeah,
like, what's the dude from New Jersey Drive? So yeah.
but when this film came out, which was in January of 1998,
Hmm.
it pretty much flopped, right? So it was $46 million for the budget, and it made 25.2 million,
Oh, really?
which is, yeah, which is considered a flop. And I'm not that surprised because hearing the release date, like movies that studios don't know what to do with, right? They'll release in January and February
Okay.
because less people are going to see the movie then. There's not really
Yes.
like any kind of any seasonal theme or anything, right?
Mhm.
You don't have like your winter blockbusters. That's not really a thing, right?
Right,
You don't
right.
really have, yeah, yeah. So that's where they released those movies. So that's where this one went. And there were a lot of like kind of like supernatural movies coming out at the time. So it fit in a lot with that. And then looking at Rotten Tomatoes, they gave it like a 40% on critical reviews. But of
Hmm.
course, if you look at the reviews from the audience, is much higher. But a
What was
lot of the critics didn't. I'm sorry.
what was the audience?
I believe the audience was like 70%.
Mm.
Yeah, because it wasn't. I mean, I don't think it's a bad movie at all.
I don't think it's a bad movie. I mean, it's not an Oscar worthy performance,
Yeah,
but it's not
72%.
72.
Well, Oscars would never even look at a film like this anyway. It would be too genre. Like they
Yeah,
don't really do supernatural stuff like that.
right, right. But I mean, it's not nothing that I would be like, oh my God, this is terrible. Why would he pick this? You know what I mean?
Right.
So
There are
like,
definitely worse
enjoyable.
movies.
Yeah, yeah, it was enjoyable. I
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, it was a couple parts where it was kind of slow. That kind of lost my interest, but other than that, for the most part, it
It
was.
does. It does have some slow bits,
Yeah.
um, but I kind of like that because it gives you a little bit of breathing room, and then it also can be used to ratchet the tension back up.
Hmm.
Uh, but also, it's a little bit of a nostalgia thing, because movies were a little bit quieter.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Especially like a cop movie like this, like there's no explosions or anything. There's not a ton of gunfights or.
Right.
Um,
Right. And it's not an actual person per se that you're fighting.
right.
No?
It's just this force, right?
Right.
Let's see. They said it has an interesting premise. Unfortunately, it's just a recycling of old materials and not at all thrilling.
Mm.
I was like, I just disagree, like completely. Yeah, it can maybe use some shortening, but like I thought it was thrilling, especially when you have that chase scene, right? And
Hmm.
then Azazel's just kind of going around people and like you know, bas- terrorizing Hobbs, as I keep saying.
Yeah.
um, and the idea that it could be anyone, anywhere, at any time,
Hmm.
right? And the
Right.
only way you know it is if he basically tells you. So
Right. 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 Because there's no way that you can keep up with it. Like he tried his best, especially in that scene when he went outside of the precinct and it was just passing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
hmm
Like he tried his best to
hmm
try to keep up with it, but there's just no way that you can.
yeah, because Azazel's like in the precinct. He of course he notices, and so he's chasing, trying to catch up to him. I don't know what he's gonna do,
Mm. Right.
but
Right.
he gets in this older couple who are dressed really fabulously.
Yes.
Yeah,
Especially
I
walking.
was like, what were they doing at the police station? What happened to them? But
Right.
um, he gets into them, and I guess he basically wants Azazel to know that he's onto him because he says some words in Aramaic,
Hmm.
and which makes Azazel stop and turn around and talk to him. Um, but I really liked it.
Yeah. Now, do you think that this Azazel was in the guy, and they were just using the guy that was executed? You
Oh,
think it?
Azazel was definitely, yeah, because that guy was speaking Aramaic. Like after he tried to shake Denzel's hand to transfer himself into Denzel, he starts talking Aramaic, and they're like,
Well, it didn't. It didn't necessarily transfer like how it was transferring to others.
It
So,
didn't, and that's because if it's really good if you like go back and watch it again, because then you
uh,
can see like little things that are happening throughout the film. But he shakes his hand to do that, and he
mhm.
says, "Oh, you're still a really good guy."
So it only
So
transfers to people that aren't.
I guess people who are more corruptible.
So why? Because that's where it kind of disconnects for me. Because
Yeah, we don't
is he
really get too much of a
the
clear
origin?
answer on that, but
Yeah, because like, is he the origin of it, or was it just transferred to him and he was just used as a vessel?
I mean, it's probably trans. I mean, definitely transferred to him. Because in the beginning he says, let me tell you the story of how I almost died. It's like, well, if I start at the beginning, we'll be here for like eternity or something, right?
Hmm.
So indicating that he's existed since the beginning of time, basically.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
when he goes to speak to Greta about it, she tells him about, the battle between heaven and hell and the fallen angels and how some of them were cursed to never be able to have a form.
So where I'm kind of lost at is that he's been in death row this whole time. How come he didn't try to like transfer it to like one of the COs or something like that?
Well, it seems like based on like the whole story with Greta's father,
Hmm.
he's wants revenge specifically for the people who catch him.
Okay. Okay. That would make sense then.
Yeah.
So why would he put? I mean, if he wanted revenge specifically for them, then was Hobbs one of the people that he caught? I mean, they caught him.
Hobbs was like the lead detective on his case that caught the
Oh,
serial
okay.
killer. Yeah.
So that was the
Which is
whole reason
why like
there in the
they're
first
doing
place.
the interview with the documentary and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I guess I missed that part. Okay. So, so yeah, I think that's all the questions I had. Can
Well,
you
what did
see
you think of the movie?
that? I thought it was cool. You know, it wasn't like the best performance from him, but it
Mm.
wasn't the worst. There is a GIF
Yeah.
that's been going around, so now I know where the GIF is from. So that's good. That's a plus.
I knew it was from a movie where he played a cop, but I didn't know which one. He's played a
Yeah,
lot of cops. So
right, right. Like I had no clue, but I've used them. I've used the GIF. So,
many
uh,
times.
right. um, can you see that? Can you see this movie being redone in present day?
Oh yeah, I could see it being redone in present day. I could see it being maybe a sequel being done.
Hmm.
Like with his nephew, right? Trying to
Mm,
find out what happened to his father and his uncle. Because I'm like, dang, the nephew doesn't have a father. Now his uncle is gone. He's gonna be
right,
in the system. Like, I'm just like really
right.
sad for this kid. Uh, or though, hopefully, maybe Greta just takes care of him. I guess I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Like
I could totally see it. I can see it being a TV series, right?
it could.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There are definite possibilities. Do you know if this was a book first?
I don't know, actually. I don't think so. Nothing that I came across said that it was from a book.
Okay, because I could
Yeah,
definitely
it just
see it
seems to be
in
a
a novel.
screenplay. Yeah, I can see
Yeah,
that too.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So let's go to our rating system. So we have one, movie real trash AF, two, it exists, three, entertaining, four, great, five, a true classic.
Hmm.
So what say you?
I would give this a 4. Even though it, was a flop at the box office, it's really gained more appreciation and a bigger following, like a cult classic kind of thing.
Hmm.
Because it is a good movie.
Hmm.
Um, and it's supernatural film where the black man doesn't die first, and like
Mm,
um even though there is a clear hero, he fails, which is unusual.
yeah,
And it's well done, well acted.
yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely worth your time, I think.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I would give it a 3.
A
It's,
3. It exists.
well, no, it exists is 2. No, 3 is
Oh,
entertaining. I was
entertaining,
entertained.
that's right.
Yeah, I was definitely entertained. Um, but I'm just right in the middle with it. I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
blown away, but it wasn't like, oh my god, I just wasted 2 hours. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I
But
love the fall feel and everything of it. And also, this movie takes place in Boston. I keep seeing a lot of places saying it's in New York or
I
some
was
unnamed place but it's in Boston. And I understand why people didn't catch it, because you only hear it on like a TV that's playing in the background.
yeah, and I was wondering where it was,
Yeah.
but usually a Boston setting, you get a Boston accent. Nobody gave that,
No, no, they didn't.
like not
They
one
didn't.
person. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
But she says on the TV, and they're referring to like the case with Greta's father,
mhm,
uh, happening in Boston as well, which is where they found the plaque in the bottom of the precinct, because it's the same place.
mhm. Okay. All right. Well, cool beans. That is Fallen 1998. Did you know there was another Fallen um that has nothing to do with this one?
Oh, I'm
It,
sure there is.
yeah, there's another one. It came out in 2016. It's like some romance, weird looking
Yeah,
movie.
no, this is definitely Fallen 1998, or you can look up Fallen Denzel. It'll come right up.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that. I was like, huh. And that one got like 7%.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah. So yeah. But no. No, this one is, you're right, the 1998 one. So
And definitely much better. I am very sure. So,
right.
um, now what's funny is it says the runtime is 124 minutes. This movie is 2 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know why it says that, but it's 2 hours.
That's 2 hours.
Um, yeah.
That is 2 hours. Yeah.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
Yeah.
Um, I was interpreting it wrong. But I think this would be like a good, spooky season watch
Hmm.
for sure.
But it's
It's got
not even
like,
that spooky.
huh?
It's not even that spooky.
Oh well, I mean, the concept of just like having this demon that's after you, and you don't know where it is or who it is, or
Mm,
how close it is to you, and it's just doing nothing but like applying pressure, basically,
yeah.
on you and framing you for crimes. And how do you even tell anybody about this? Who's going to believe you? Like,
Exactly. Exactly. That's why he ran. Because he was
yeah,
like, if I tell them the truth, they're not gonna believe me. So
yeah. And even through all of his efforts to try and defeat this demon, he still fails.
hmm.
So
Right.
that's why I think it's a good spooky season watch. So,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, next week we will be doing
yes.
Boomerang.
What is your choice? Boomerang. Okay, I
Yes.
have never seen this.
Yes. So this is gonna be fun. I can't wait to hear your thoughts about Boomerang.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm
So,
probably gonna make some people mad or something. I don't know.
oh man, I can't wait to hear them thoughts. All right. So where can we get in touch with you, Maria?
Oh, you can get in touch with me on Instagram and on Twitter at Valarmor Dollars. That's VALARMOR Dollars. I also have a podcast I do with some other Black women where we talk about nerdy and geeky stuff called Nerdgasm Noir. So you can find me there too. Where can they find you, Lindsay?
You can find me on all social media at L_Renell. That's L_RANELLE. And also on my other podcast, The Ish We Talk. And yeah,
What you think about this week?
we we talked about A lot of stuff, actually. Um, One of the things that we talked about, sometimes we take hard lefts. So, one thing that we took a hard left on in particular was the N word and who should say it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so that was a pretty interesting conversation.
Y'all should tune in for our conversation.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's not always serious, but that hard left was kind of serious. So,
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
yeah,
I'm looking at the cast for Boomerang here. I didn't know all these people were in this movie. I knew it was Eddie Murphy and Chris Rock, but I didn't know like Robin Givens, Eartha Kitt, Grace Jones, Tisha Campbell.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. Martin Lawrence, David Allen Greer, Holly Berry. Yeah,
Daryl Mitchell too. Okay.
and
Michael
then
Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
That's what it says.
I don't remember Michael Jordan,
Martin Lawrence.
but you should also look up the soundtrack too.
Oh yeah, I remember there were lots of hits from the soundtrack. I remember that.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, but yeah, yeah. So this is going to be interesting next week.
Yeah, so it looks like it's playing on HBO.
HBO Max, yeah.
HBO Max, yeah.
Hmm.
So if you
Yeah,
guys want to watch it and then come back and listen to us talk about it, and my first time watching it because I had never seen this, you
yeah,
should come back next week. Give us a like, leave some comments, interact, tell us what you think we should might watch next, what you think of Fallen. I would love to know what people think of Fallen because
yeah,
it is to me underrated movie.
yeah. I didn't know it was that underrated either.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
because
I mean, it was like
that you just think he knocks everything out the park, like it's automatic.
right. And the thing is, here he was apparently hit like a payday high for this movie too. Right?
Oh,
Yeah, because it's 45 million, right, in cost, just for budget for the film, but
mm.
it's not like there's a whole bunch of special effects in this movie.
Well, those demon effects probably cost a lot back in '98.
Well, the only I mean, it would be a few filters. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're just changing how you see the film. They're not really doing anything particularly like supernatural CGI or even practical effects, really. You
Right,
know.
right. But I'm just saying,
What I'm
like back,
saying is most of that budget went to the actors. Probably a lot of that budget went to the actors.
yeah, probably not uh Gandolfini, but definitely Goodman because he was coming off of the
Yeah.
Roseanne and Donald
Yeah.
Sutherland, of course.
Donald Sutherland for sure. And those are
Yeah,
the names that are on the poster.
exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. And I thought they would have bigger roles than what they did because their names was on the poster.
Oh yeah, but it was mostly Denzel's show. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, him versus the demon.
right.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminded me of what's that comic book character? Because he is a detective who basically fights demons.
Mm-hmm. And it's a comic book character.
Yeah, yeah, he had a TV show for a little bit and a movie starring Keanu Reeves.
Hmm.
Yeah, people are yelling at me right now. I know they are. I
uh,
know this movie. I know it because I've seen the movie and I've seen the show, but I just cannot think of the name right now.
oh man, a Keanu Reeves movie.
Yes, Keanu Reeves.
Was it Constantine?
Yes, Constantine. That's the one.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Constantine is a character from like the Sandman comics, and then he got his own run, and then there was the movie and the TV show. Which the TV show was really good. I really hate to cancel it.
Huh. I never saw the TV show. I didn't even know it was a comic book character, but yeah, I remember seeing Constantine, but I don't remember Constantine.
Mm-hmm. I remember really liking Constantine, although it has been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
But I also remember it didn't do too well either. And I mean, for one thing, he looks nothing like the character.
Mm.
Like the TV show version of the character is much more faithful to the comic book. But I'm not really ever going to complain too much about Keanu Reeves being in something. Like, it's fine.
Right. I mean, it's Keanu. Like,
Right. I'm gonna let him do that. It's fine. So,
right. He can look however he wants.
yes.
Yeah. Right. Well, that was a Fallen. And this is what, episode 10, I believe.
This is episode 10.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting there.
We are. We
So,
are.
see you guys on episode 11 of Roomies Review the Movies.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.